Hello, I'm here today with Elisabeth Rowark, Director of the Kielder Water and Forest Park Development Trust. She has kindly agreed to answer some questions. First of all, would you please tell us a little about the Development Trust and maybe your role within that?
Okay, so the Development Trust manages Kielder Water and Forest Park as a tourism destination, and that means working with the key partners there, so that's Forestry Commission, Northumberland Water, County Council and the Calvert Trust. And I need to make them work together so that it is a great tourism destination and they deliver all the things for visitors, but we get marketing and signage and all the events linked together so that we're working together as one place. So my job's kind of a cross between a head teacher and an encourager and also a strategist, and then I get right down into detail, so what is actually going on a sign or a poster.
Do you think working with lots of different businesses and creating links is important, especially in a rural area?
Yeah, really important. That's part of our plan for the area. So we work with all the small businesses in the area. We have a business forum that we've pulled together that the businesses actually asked for. And we give them a lot of information, but we also try and encourage them to take advantage of the tourists that we're bringing to the area.
Obviously we all know Northumberland is a beautiful place. What do you think are the benefits of the Trust being in Northumberland or working in Northumberland?
Well, the landscape is just phenomenal, and Kielder's particularly special because it's a man-made landscape. Well, in fact, all our landscapes are man-made, but this one is obviously man-made, so it's a big forest, big lake, all created by man. And that gives us some special opportunities because it means we can do a lot of things with the landscape that perhaps the national park can't do. Mm-hmm. So we can do a lot of contemporary things and we can put contemporary art in the place. And then we've got some special assets, so we've got 50% of the UK's red squirrel population, so that gives us a lot of wildlife tourism opportunities. We've obviously developed the ospreys as a wildlife tourism opportunity, and the dark skies, of course, is the next big thing that's coming our way. Sometimes when we live in Northumberland, we overlook what's right in front of our noses. As you can tell, I'm an incomer to Northumberland. I've been here just over 10 years, but I'm still a newbie by comparison. But we need, sometimes people coming in and seeing things afresh help us who are here all the time to take advantage of what's right in front of our noses.
Just then you mentioned the dark skies status, and I've heard a little bit about it. Could you tell us a bit more about what it's about?
This is a phenomenal opportunity. So we have the darkest skies in England at Kielder Water and Forest Park and a bit in the National Park as well. And so we're working together to create England's only and obviously largest dark sky park. Now that is an international recognition, so the International Dark Skies Association is the one that awards that to any place. We've just put our application in and we're waiting to hear whether we've got it or not, and that will place us the largest dark sky park in Europe and the third in the world. So this is really significant for a rural place like Northumberland, and of course using one of our greatest assets.
How do you promote it to tourists? Like, what different things do you use? Or
what we need to do is to make it really obvious to visitors what they can do when they come. So the press is going to go mad about the dark skies. They love it. It's a really friendly thing to put out on the press and the TV and everything. But then people are going to say, well, how do I take part? How do I enjoy that? So we've got to make sure that the websites, newsletters, any other social media are telling people what they can do, where they can stay, how do they eat, where do they go and see this, what are they going to see when they look at the sky, and we've got to, the partnership who are working on the dark skies have got to put all that in place. And so we have to think about everything. We have to think about what we call the visitor journey, so what people are thinking before they come, what they need when they get here, how do they find their way around, what kind of welcome do they get. So then we have to influence people, other businesses, to be really welcoming. Things like stargazers come in late after they've been stargazing, so how do they get into their hotel at 2 or 3 in the morning?
So as well as the tourists, how does the partnership support and help the local community?
Well, we've got 4 objectives. So we've got sustainability, so that's economic, environmental and social sustainability, public recreation and leisure, the learning, and then the arts, learning about wildlife and environment and things like that. And we've got a whole layer of communities, so we've got people who live and work right in the park, And then we've got people who are influenced by the park, so sort of around the edge, and we've got businesses who relate to the park, and we think about those communities and then work with each one. But the really local communities of residents, we do stuff like we do art with them, we develop art pieces for their locations, we do obviously the business development with them. We try and make sure that as residents they're not overly disturbed by tourists, because that can be a bit of an issue in a rural area.
Do you hold any specific events that are aimed at young people, like you mentioned, the bike riding and things like that?
There are certain events that have more appeal. I mean, the zombie runs are a great appeal for young people. So that's where people dress up as zombies and they race through the forest and they get chased by other zombies. And it's a real thing that came across from America. And there's a company now that do that in Kielder Forest, so you can sign up to be on a zombie run. There's a couple coming up for Halloween, of course. But they happen throughout the year as well.
What advice would you give a young person who's thinking about starting up their own business in the park or near the park?
Go for it. Do your research really well first, and there's just loads of people who will help you. And I think sometimes as a young person, maybe it's a bit nerve-wracking to go and ask, you know, an older person who's running a business, you know, what they did and how they get there and what are their figures, you know, how are they making their money. But I think it's really important that's what happens. And organisations like myself are really keen to share the information. So I've got stacks of statistics and information about how many people come, what they spend their money on and all that. So we should be used as resources. So I was really encouraging them to do their research before they start their business. And then think really hard about what are the gaps in the market. So try not to do what someone else is doing, but do something just a little bit different. What our visitors who come to Northumberland really want is great customer service. And so knowing what that means is really important as a young person. I think the other thing as a young person is you probably haven't been to quite so many places in your life, and testing places out and visiting places that perhaps you wouldn't normally go to and seeing what that's like to find out what your visitor wants rather than what you want in a tourism business is really important.
So are you passionate about your job, your role at the moment?
Oh yeah, absolutely love it, absolutely love it. I mean, I'm so over the moon by the fact that we won Best Tourism Experience of the year, so England's Best Tourism Experience back in May. And that was, for me, that was a real sort of medal to say actually what you're doing is working and it's going in the right direction. And then since then we've done a couple of major marketing campaigns on the back of it. And then we've got the Dark Skies thing coming off. We've got 2 major TV programmes coming off this next couple of months. So it's really frenetic, but really good fun. And I get to do loads of stuff, as I say, right from, you know, I meet someone who's going to start a business and talk to them about what their business is going to be and how we can help and what marketing we might be able to help them with and that sort of thing, right through to sitting down with senior people in the region and selling to them the concept of Kielder Forest Park and getting their support.
What advice would you offer a young person who's just starting out on their career?
I would say don't stop dreaming and keep thinking about what that next thing could be. Don't let the place where you are, if it's not quite what you want, don't let the place where you are get you down, but see it as a stepping stone to where you want to be. And don't forget that actually hard work pays off. Sometimes you have to clear tables before you get to being a senior director in a tourism business, or in any business in fact. So sometimes you have to start by licking envelopes and stuffing envelopes before you get to be a senior manager. And don't forget, that's the route to get to where you want to be.